Good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim. Sunday morning coffee, shore bet coffee, Amwager, Pleasant Acres. Decent day of racing yesterday. Vhava was impressive, winning the Chicago Stakes at Churchill, which I'll touch on here in the next little bit. But the Ohio Derby was was very interesting to me, just from for a variety of different reasons. You had McAfee in there, who, coming out of yesterday's race, you might think that his best shot was two starts back now in the Peter Pan, where he just kind of missed. Clever Again was back in after the Preakness and all the stuff that Asmussen said, which I want to dive into a little bit. Mo Plex, the winner, impressive at two, first time around, two turns, and he blew the break, which we'll look at here in a second. But pretty impressive run from from him. Um, you know, Thistle Downs, I've been there once, maybe twice. Uh, Funny little track up in Cleveland. Um, Always their biggest day of the year. So good for them. They had some decent starters lined up in the Ohio Derby. So let's take a look.
Enter off in the Ohio
So you see
Derby.
Mo Plex, really just kind of
Clever again
break
off to a sharp start.
outwardly
Bohemian style with
and
swirling speed, and
put
there's
himself
Mo
kind of
Plex
behind the
with the
8 ball,
far
had to
inside
rush up here.
momentarily.
But
McAfee split
Clever
fourth.
Again,
Chunk
you
of Gold's
knew
off to
had to be
fifth in
forward
fifth as he left the
because of
line for
what
the first time.
Asmussen
So it's
said coming
Clever
out of the
again to call
Preakness,
the shots
where,
here in the Ohio
his
Derby.
horse
Clever
basically
again
got
shows the
boxed
way.
in on the
Mo Plex
rail,
up on the
almost sent over
outside
the
is
rail.
second. McAfee in close
And,
attendance right behind that
a
leading
lot of
pair.
horses
Close to their
can
racing pair.
develop
Most
some,
Bohemian style
um,
is
you know,
currently racing
like
fourth.
PTSD
Inside,
from
Chunk of
something
Gold
like
shows back
that.
fifth. Churchill
And
Baytown is with the trailing trio. That includes
he
Saratoga
was he was frustrated because that makes
Clever
his job
again entering the
all the
next
more
race with five
difficult
and a half furlongs to
to
go, leading three parts. Mo
all
Plex
the more
Raytown is
difficult
hit full second.
to
McAfee is a fair
do
two
in
lengths
trying
off, racing
to
in third. Chunk
coach
of
this
Gold is moved to
horse
his outside in fourth.
away
Next is
from
Bohemian
that
Style out to a
that
three
fear
wide.
of being on the
Churchill's
inside,
Baytown
right?
within
So
four lengths. Kapalua
that
in
was
close
point
behind.
one. You knew
Saratoga
the horse had to
Strategy.
go, and
Nearly
then
four furlongs to go in the Ohio
we'll
Derby, and
see it here
Clever
in the next
again
little
leads with
bit. But
three quarters
as
of a
they
length
turn
here.
for
Mo
a
Plex still
home,
right there. McAfee away
he's
through
pretty
on the
far
rail.
off
Chunk
the
of Gold
off
well
the
in striking
rail.
distance. Bohemian
And
style
again,
just outside of
that is
there. Just
by
starts to move on far
design,
outside. Then it's Brereton's Baytown and Kapalua. Pacers up
because
here.
of what
Then the
happened
far turn,
last race. So
5/16
you
to go.
wanted to
Clever again in
probably
front. Mo
wanted to
Plex still challenges the
give
narrow
him
even turns. McAfee
that
right behind
amount
him in
of
third. Chunk of Gold keeping it on fourth.
space,
Bohemian style comes under pressure
right?
now.
Because
Top of
look how
the
much room
stretch.
there is.
Plex takes the lead.
Look how much
Clever
room there
again
is
has to pull
along
back
the
into this
rail there.
Chunk of Gold
And
and
as soon as he
McAfee.
faced any
But it's
sort of
Mo Plex
pressure,
in
he
front with a
wilted.
furlong to
Now,
go.
I think
Chunk
you
of
could look
Gold
at
can
this
go. McAfee's into third. Clever
one
again
of two
tired.
ways.
Mo Plex with the
You
lead
could
up
say,
front.
all
6 left
right,
to go. Chunk of Gold
the
moves to
horse
the
can't be
inside.
around
It's
other
Mo Plex.
horses,
He's
and
too
when he
strong.
finds
Mo
pressure,
Plex
he's
wins
going
the
to
Ohio
wilt.
Derby. Chunk of Gold
Or
second. McAfee
you
was third.
can
Extradition
look
finished
at
fourth, but I
it
think Brereton's
like,
Baytown ran.
um, the horse just doesn't want to go long, would much rather be shorter. So we'll see where he wheels back, maybe in a sprint race, 6, 7 furlongs, perhaps. That might be his preferred distance. But outside of Moplex, no other horses really did any running. I guess Chunk of Gold kind of clunked up there for second. Maybe there was a moment there, um, around the eighth pole where you thought he might get there, but for the most part, you know, how that horse continues to get money is beyond me. The horse went off at 6-5. Um, and he's the only other one that you could argue did much running in that race. Maybe McAfee, kind of hung around there, but overall a relatively slowish race. Mo Plex, I thought, breaking out towards the grandstand, having to rush up to get position into that first turn, and then being able to take over like he did, I thought was pretty impressive. So, I know that horse was dealing with a little bit of a setback. Um, was it towards the end of last year or early this year? And he ran some pretty big races at two. So it's nice to see him come back and win in that spot. And just real quick on what Steve Asmussen said about the dynamics of the Preakness. I mean, he almost kind of like put added pressure on himself in this race, or wherever Clever Again was going to come back. Ultimately ended up being the Ohio Derby. But you say those things like, okay, now my horse is going to be scared against the rail or alongside other horses, and I have to work through that. And that's a real thing, right? Just like humans experience that, sort of claustrophobia where you're like on a crowded subway train or something like that. I think the idea is similar. Um, but I thought it was interesting because you put a lot of pressure now on yourself and the horse, because if you come back and you win, right, which he didn't, so it's easy to talk about now, but you come back and win, either one of two things is true. Either you're completely full of what, or you're the greatest trainer that's ever lived. And because it takes longer than 4 or 5 weeks to um, break horses out of that mentality. I saw it firsthand with, if you guys recall, Venti Valentine, who ran in the 2022 um, Kentucky Oaks, millionaire New York bred, fantastic horse. She got pinched a little pinched a lot really in the Oaks, and just kind of backed out of the race. If you go back and look at her past performances, the next couple of starts after that weren't great, right? And talking to the guys who own the horse, the guy who trains the horse, was saying just that, right? Just kind of get a little bit more timid around other horses when you're in tight spots after something like that happens, and you kind of get spooked. So it took her several months, several starts to get back to her confident winning ways. So I just thought those interesting comments from Asmussen, a month ago, because you kind of back yourself into a corner. And now, like we saw again, you can look at it one or two ways. This horse is scared and wilts under pressure, or is better suited for around one turn at shorter distances. Anyway, that was what I was thinking about yesterday watching that race. And also that somebody really needs to mow the lawn in the infield at Thistle Downs. The Chicago Stakes at Churchill, I don't have the replay. Vhava looked really good. She loves to win at Churchill, loves to win in Kentucky. I will be interested to see again too where she winds up next. Hopefully Saratoga, where she'll take a lot of money and you can bet against her, because she doesn't really win outside of Kentucky. Um, so just something to keep an eye on as we get into the summer. Saratoga opens not this not next weekend. The Thursday after that, or they run a Wednesday. I'm not sure. Soon enough, they're gonna be running there all year long. Um, So anyway, those were the two big races yesterday, and just kind of having some other races on in the background. Rebels Romance won at Ascot. This is an absolute tremendous racehorse. He's won all over the world. Two Breeders' Cups. Won the UAE Derby. Won the Dubai Shima Classic, I think. Won in Hong Kong. Won at Ascot. That horse does not get nearly enough credit um, from from us here in the U.S. But another tremendous run by him. So we'll take a pause. It's enough recapping of a couple of the big races. We'll come back, and I've got some thoughts on Saratoga opening up in a week and a half, and just some different things to pay attention to, and to see what works for you, see what works at excuse me, at the old spa. Stick around.
Go.
All right. Saratoga opens for their 4th of July racing festival. And I can't help but think that this is just going to be a precursor to an expanded Saratoga racing meet where they just run all of July, all of August through Labor Day. I mean, they're basically doing it this year. I don't think they're missing any days of, well, maybe Wednesday, I guess. If they're running Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday over the 4th of July weekend, and then opening up that following Thursday. I don't know. I mean, they're just kind of milking the Golden Goose, and the Belmont will be up there again next year, which, I mean, they just draw so much handle. It's kind of hard to not do that. So I totally get where they're coming from. It's just that the product just gets so watered down. There was nobody there like the first 2 days, like that Wednesday, Thursday of the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. This year, I was up there last year on that Thursday. Again, there was nobody there. So, but everybody bets from home. And, I got a little upset a couple weeks ago at following along on Twitter at the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. And our good friend of the channel, Bill Gottmere, tweeted something about there being very limited people on track, and a well-known Naira personality tweeted back basically saying, well, they wagered 40 million, so, or whatever. That might not be the actual number. I think it is, but to just suggest, like, who cares if no one's there? They're betting their money from home, which is fine, right? The track's going to make their money on the takeout. But isn't that like that's what horse racing marketing has been for as long as I can remember, at least for these marquee events, because there's no other marketing outside the marquee events. Come to the track, have an expensive cocktail, get a good seat, wear a nice suit, wear a nice hat, wear a nice dress, mingle with high society, pretend like you're high society, and maybe bet on the races. So the marketing is to get people to the track, but they weren't going to the track except for, Friday it looked okay, Saturday some morning rain, but on Belmont Day, but everything kind of cleared up, and the apron looked pretty packed throughout the day. But those other days, there's nobody there, and sure, you're betting, but the marketing, the marketing just is the opposite of what actually happened. So to have a Naira personality just kind of say basically, who cares? They bet anyway. It's just I don't know. I thought that was just a little disappointing, but nevertheless. So what do you? I think for me, going into Saratoga, and this is easier said than done. I'm still working to try and improve my ability at doing this, but playing larger win bets, I think, is going to be my MO this summer at Saratoga. And here's why. I feel like I have the opportunity to win more. And I'm not a huge better, right? Like we'd probably, like if I'm making a win bet, it's like, $50 is a lot, right? I don't wager a ton of money. But if there's like a big day, I'll put 150 $200 into a pick five ticket if I feel like it warrants it. And that's kind of come back to bite me a little bit. Whereas I feel like I could have used a lot more of that capital on win bets on horses in that sequence that are 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, and get a nice return rather than having that horse in my pick five ticket, but then my pick five ticket goes bust in the next leg and I have nothing left to show for it. So I think my mode is going to be changing my mindset and transitioning more towards larger win bets on horses that I have a really strong opinion on, and then going super tight in some pick five tickets just to have that ticket in play, 48 $56, and play it that way. So all that to say, I'll probably watch more than wager a lot, as the first couple of days come in, and see how the racetrack is shaping up, seeing which trainers are performing well early, which riders are performing well early, and kind of start to shape my opinions after the first couple of days, just kind of following along that that sort of path. So treading lightly early, focusing on win bets, not rocket science, right? But I think when you have the sort of aura of Saratoga and you want to play every single race and you want to be involved in every single pick five, um, it can get kind of expensive pretty quick. So gonna keep my feet on the ground, focus on some win bets, and try and take advantage of some pools that way, as I've got this stupid fly buzzing around that won't leave me alone. So that's it. I'll leave it there. Mo Plex, winner of the Ohio Derby. Good for him. Clever again. Probably needs to shorten up or take a break Vhava, always impressive in Kentucky. And then we'll see where she shows up next, but she'll probably be a play against if we're seeing her next time at Saratoga. Have a great week, everybody. Shorebet Coffee, Amwager, Pleasant Acres, thank you as always for helping us bring Sunday morning coffee to you here on Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend.
Go.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final for sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.